Whiskas, feed their curiosity.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. We're live on SABC3 and it's so good to have you with us this afternoon. We're really enjoying the show today. Now, all pets need exercise. Cats need to play and dogs need to run. And it's obviously more than just thinking that because you have a garden, your pet is getting exercise that they need. Lauren from Pet Wellness Works, in fact, is here to give us some insight into what pet exercise should really look like. Welcome to the loft.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It clearly seems like Donut needs the most amount of exercise in the loft today. She's one of our favorite friends. Donut! We've got all of her toys and things to try and get her to exercise, but we've learned that just letting dogs run around in the garden isn't necessarily all the exercise that they're going to need.
No, definitely not. You'll need to do a little bit more than that. At least 30 minutes a day will be required, and a good leash walk, which is nice and brisk, helps them to go for a walk and use all the 4-beat gait, as they call it. So if you're just going to let them play around or sniff around in a field for 30 minutes, that's the equivalent of you and I reading the newspaper, them sniffing around. So you'll have to do a little bit more than that.
I see. And in terms of the actual dogs and the breeds that we can find, are dog breeds different and do they need different amounts of exercise?
Yes, all dog breeds are different, and they obviously influence or will influence the lifestyle that you have. So if you want to come home from work and you want to lounge on the couch, then best not to get your German short-haired pointer. You'll need something that's more sedentary. So maybe look at something like a Frenchie or a bulldog, but each dog will need a certain amount of exercise depending on what they're bred for, yes.
I see. And obviously there's different kinds of exercise, like you mentioned. There's a way of taking your dogs out for a walk. Is that walk on a lead? Is that free walking? Is there different ways to exercise the dog at home?
Yeah, walking on a lead is very important. So if they just amble around on the field, that's more just to sniff around and look at things and smell and whatever else. But for them, walking on a lead is important. Of course, enrichment and brain games at home you can also do to help them dissipate some of their energy and excess levels. But yeah, those are things that you can do for exercise.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I had a family dog who got quite old. Eventually, arthritis started to set in, and it was quite a difficult process because this dog particularly loved to be outside of the house and adventuring, meeting other dogs, but would come back absolutely knackered and exhausted, and in fact probably more sore than they were when they left. But they still need that kind of energy. Is there something we can do for aged dogs or dogs who are going through particularly tough times physically?
Yes, sure. So with regards to that, unfortunately, there's a catch-22. When they're arthritic, they want to be more sedentary, but you actually need to keep them more mobile. So to improve that mobility, you want to take the concussive forces off their joints. So maybe using water will help that, particularly because there will be no concussive forces or minimal weight bearing on the joints, but the water will come up to their level to support them, and that buoyancy then takes all that off the joints, and then that flexibility remains. So every day that you aren't flexible with them, you lose it. So that's the best way to keep them.
And that's kind of what Pet Wellness Works does. You guys play around in those spaces.
Yeah.
It's amazing work. Tell us more.
So we have an underwater treadmill and a swimming pool, which we mostly focus on. Yeah. We're based on the concept of like a human physical therapy practice, where we do massage and soft tissue techniques, and we use modalities like laser and ultrasound, for instance, for pain and inflammation. But we do all different types of exercises there: core works, balance work, proprioception. We do confidence courses for the little puppies, get them habituated, or train them how to swim themselves. But mostly we have rehabilitation for dogs that have had post-surgery or those conditions like arthritis, which are progressive diseases, and we try and prolong the progression of those diseases.
So the idea behind what you guys are trying to say is if you've got a dog at home who happens to be old, or you perhaps even adopted a slightly older animal or an animal that is injured, it's not the end of the line for them. There's no need to put those dogs down. There's so much that you can still do to ensure they live a happy, healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely, yes.
Stunning. Really cool. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been an absolutely fascinating journey for me learning about underwater treadmills for dogs. I never knew that even existed. So especially if your pet is aged, please go find out more details. All of their details are going to be on our website, afternoonexpress.co.za. And if you've always wondered where to know more information about the animals that we have in our loft, Baxter as well as Donut, you can follow them on Instagram. So we're also pretty innovative and cool like that. You can find them Adventures of Donut and Adventures of Baxter on Instagram.
Oh, they are so cute. Now, the topic of today's show is marriage and the unfortunate reality of divorce. Sometimes in life, a relationship reaches a point of no return, and divorce becomes the most logical solution.
So once a couple has made the decision, the process can be long and emotionally draining, but it's not the end. There is life after divorce, and joining us to discuss this is life coach Nolene Adams. Welcome to the Loft,
Welcome.
Nolene.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nolene, divorce is a hard thing. It completely turns your life upside down, and every idea that you ever had about your future, your dreams, yourself, really gets questioned and tested. What are the different emotional stages that people go through after divorce? Can you name them for us?
Yes, so I think firstly it's important to acknowledge that going through a divorce is similar to experiencing death.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if both parties agree to it, it doesn't make the process any easier. And unfortunately, as a society, we're not skilled at allowing people that go through a divorce to grieve. And essentially, they're going through the same cycle. You know, there's denial, there's anger, there's betrayal, there's also acceptance at the end of that cycle. So I think there's some hope in understanding that, you know, it is a process and you will experience certain feelings, but you will get through that process.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've never been divorced, but I've gone through a few nasty breakups. How long should you feel bad for after a breakup or a divorce? Like, how long should that really lousy phase last?
You know, I don't have an exact answer.
Yeah.
It
varies.
It varies from person to person, but what I do know is if you don't allow yourself that time to grieve, and if you don't make yourself and your healing a priority on top of everything else that you're juggling, it will take you longer. And you will get stuck in a place of feeling revengeful, of feeling bitter. And so that would be my advice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because I think everybody deals with trauma differently, because it is a type of trauma.
Yes,
actually.
absolutely.
Yeah. And there's that kind of post-traumatic stress disorder that happens in your life. And then I also find that what you're talking about, that people actually need tools to actually help them prioritize their healing. Because when you don't prioritize your healing, being the divorced person becomes your new normal.
Absolutely.
So that's a framework from which you live your life.
Yes.
How can people avoid doing that?
You know, I think firstly you need support, and support in various areas of your life. You can, you know, decide to see a professional person. You can join a support group. There are various support groups out there, and the beauty and dynamics of a group setting is that you get to learn from other people, and you realize that you're not the only person going through this, and you're not the first person. You know, it's about building your tribe. That is so important, connecting with people that you trust and you can share your experience with. Yes.
Absolutely.
But also taking care of yourself, because I think afterwards, I think it's such a nice time, because well, personally, I think when you're feeling so lousy, that's whenever I'm feeling low, it's a time that I take for myself to take long baths, except in Cape Town drought. So to take longer baths, to go to more yoga classes, to really take better care of. What tools should women go to? Also to change their internal dialogue so that they don't punish themselves so much.
Absolutely.
Definitely. You know, one of the processes that I would take a client through is to look at what is the reality and what is the actual story that you're telling yourself about what's happening. Because it's that thought that you're feeding that is resulting in you feeling a certain way and behaving a certain way. And I agree with you, taking those long baths, it doesn't have to be complicated. It's the simple things that you do. Taking a 10-minute walk during your lunchtime, keeping a gratitude diary.
But changing your dialogue with yourself, like when somebody says, are you in a relationship, instead of saying, oh no, I'm divorced, just say, I'm single.
Absolutely.
There's also a very big part of this that a lot of people struggle with, and I love that saying. It says, when the elephants fight, it's the grass that gets trampled. The children. When there's children involved, how do adults speak to children about divorce? What kind of language can they use, and how should it be done? Should it be done by both parents? Can it be done singularly? Just some guidelines?
So I'm not an expert in child care and how you have that conversation, but I think it's very important that both parents get together and they choose what the best way is, and also get support from a professional to help them have that dialogue.
I think it's really, really important, because I think it's how the children remember it is a very important
It can be a
thing.
very traumatic experience, and it can impact the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
One of the things that divorce does is it really knocks down your self-esteem. How can people build up their self-esteem after being in a divorce?
You know, it comes back to prioritizing yourself as important, and creating a vision for, where you want to be, and taking those small steps every day, and acknowledging the progress that you're making and embracing the emotions that you're experiencing. And that is really the program that I would run with someone, to take those small steps and acknowledge it, and have a vision. Because this is not, you know, the pain is temporary. The situation isn't great, but the pain is temporary.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being on the show. That's some great advice.
Thank you.
So after the break, we're back with the good people from Sidewalk Specials, and they've brought another adorable pup along with, who's looking for a loving home.
You keep on looking at me when you're saying that.
Loving home. Loving home.
We also have dating expert Yana Joseph and Sheldon Fitzgerald, and they're sharing a modern approach to dating. We'll be right back.